The sweet spot.
I'm not even going to drink that one yet because I have the other one I'm still drinking.
The sparkling water that... So, welcome to Movie Baiters with the Farx Brothers. I'm Kyle.
Do I go? I'm Nick.
I'm Ben.
And this is Kirk.
This is not a movie review show. This is a debate show. We are purposely going to disagree with each other. Nick likes disagreeing and wanted us to start this podcast, but the most important thing
I like disagreeing.
Yeah.
is that we announce the October 11th event at the West Theater in Duluth. If you're listening to this, let's see, it'll be Wednesday. So the first Wednesday in September is when this will come out. So we can start letting people know that the what is being called Laugh Until You Scream, a live event at the West Theater. Doors at 8:30, screening at 9, after whatever Hollywood movie they show at the 6:30, 7 o'clock showing that night. Right, Kirk?
Yeah, sounds great. Can't wait for it.
Nick, you look surprised. You've been in on these conversations.
No, I'm just thinking.
Okay, that's good.
Nobody tells me anything.
I know. Because you're the fourth Farx brother.
Yes.
And I don't count you as a special guest when you come on. I count you as a Farx brother. So does Kirk. Kirk and I write the things.
I appreciate that.
He wants you to move it closer to his mouth. He's not like...
I appreciate
the
that. I appreciate that I haven't been disowned from the family.
Yeah, it is a family. We all grew up in different places. We'll probably talk about like the toys in Nick's closet tonight because we were talking about that earlier over text. But
those beads feel really good. I'm not getting rid of those.
What's feel really good? Oh, yeah.
Right.
We're going to be talking about Strange Darling, which we all saw 2 days ago.
Yes.
We have announced the live event. Oh, and we're Upper Midwest filmmakers because this live event is going to feature our Upper Midwest filmmaking as well as Upper Midwest stand-ups. The episode. Are we cool with the episode being titled "Who You Callin' a Stupid Bee, Strange Darling"?
It's whatever.
No,
I mean, I don't.
The big debate I have is who is he calling a stupid bee, and I can make an argument for 4 different characters. But I wanted to acknowledge that 2 other movies came out this week with Strange Darling, Blink Twice, and The Crow. The Crow bombed hard.
I think people blink once during The Crow until the credits roll, and then they open their eyes.
Because they fall asleep.
That's what I meant.
Very good. Again, since we're going to be talking about Strange Darling, we are going to spoil it. Let's go around. Would we all recommend generally that people see it?
I would say go see it.
Go see it. Go see it and go in. And a point of discussion we'll have later, Nick, is go in knowing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, actually, because that's part of the other side of my argument is that, like, if you told the story in linear fashion and you knew and you found out, if you arranged those 6 chapters in order and you find out what you don't find out till later in the film, in chapter 2, because it's in chapter 2, I believe.
I think it's really in chapter 4.
Oh, which came before? Yeah.
Because it went 1, 5, 3, 4, 2.
Yeah.
6.
So that I'm like, so that was like, oh yeah, she's not.
And so if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled on anything, I guess you're going to have to give this podcast a miss. Because
turn off the podcast now.
Because we're gonna have to discuss.
Well, yeah, we're gonna talk about something else first. But Nick, Ben, are you recommending the movie?
I'll get to that later.
Okay. Kirk, are you gonna recommend it?
Yeah, I recommend seeing this movie for sure.
I strongly recommend Jason Schumacher. I was talking to him earlier, trying to get him as a guest. We'll get him as a guest someday. I hope he likes his name being said.
Shout out.
He was telling, because I was like, hey, did you see Strange Darling, to lead up into asking him to be on the episode. And he was like, yeah, go in knowing nothing. So I think we should start with the does knowing nothing make movies better or worse? Because I could see a version where I'd watch this movie again and I'll like it more because I know what's coming and I find satisfaction in remembering that. But
it depends on the movie, because you saw Blink Twice today, and I think, wouldn't you have rather seen the trailer?
No, I'm so happy. And like, okay, Ben and Nick, you guys haven't seen Blink Twice.
No, I won't. I don't intend to.
I would argue you should see it, Nick. I knew nothing. Well, how much, Ben, do you know anything about Blink Twice?
Not a thing.
Okay. And Nick, I know how you consume media, so do you know what the premise of Blink Twice is?
Yeah, Island. It was originally going to be called Pussy Island, I thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Epstein's Island?
No, just Pussy Island.
Well, you see, if Pussy Island still isn't a spoiler, whereas Epstein's Island would be a thing. Because I didn't watch the trailer, so I didn't go in, like, I was like,
I mean, I can tell, like, even just before I saw a trailer, like, oh, Channing Tatum is going to try to be some level of creep.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not that hard to figure out.
I guess the way...
That part of it, that maybe there's more that is harder to figure out.
The way the information was disseminated and how you feel towards the... Like, Kristen Slater, Gina Davis are in this movie. Because my first thought when I saw Gina Davis is, wait a second, she's only in feminist things. And obviously, this... And if the movie we're going to be discussing was directed by a man, I had thoughts about scenes of sexual violence or supposed simulated sexual violence when I was watching it. Like, oh, man.
Huh.
But this, had it not been directed by a woman, I would have gotten up and left or thrown something at the screen because there were. I mean, Kirk, am I giving a good like trigger warning? I guess
about Blink Twice.
Yeah, but I just don't understand the correlation if it's a man or a woman directing it.
Because of like. Okay, let's be clear. There's in Strange Darling, there's simulated strangulation during sex that. Because you don't know it's role playing.
Sure, but in the context of the movie, she instigates it. She wants
yes,
that.
But we don't find that out till later.
Yeah,
and I assumed that and enjoyed figuring it out because I even whispered to you, "Oh, she's."
Yeah, but no, in the context of a man directing that scene, why would you find it weird if a man directed the scenes?
Oh, I'm talking about because it's straight up rape in Blink Twice. Like, trigger warning, it's straight up rape. And I'm not going to say how, why, where, when.
It doesn't necessarily make it any better if a woman directed it, right?
How I thought about it was the way it was depicted, the way how gratuitous it was when it was shown. Because Nick was, before we got on the pod, Nick was talking about Terrifier and how that's kind of gratuitous in the way it kills women, or like Rob Zombie's Halloween is talked about, like, oh, like kill women in like a more gratuitous way than they kill the men.
I think that like it often really does matter who's saying something and who's making the art. Like of the four people here, three of us are white and none of us can say the N-word. So
Kirk
for more context, I also can't say the N-word because I'm not black.
He said none of us can say the N-word, and none of us identify as a woman.
Oh. I must have misheard.
Like in a rape revenge, like here's the obviously Blink Twice is a rape revenge movie. Kind of that's a genre, right, Nick? Rape revenge.
I think it is now.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's been. I mean, sure. Like I Spit on Your Grave is 50-year-old movie, almost 50-year-old movie. So it's like, yeah, sure.
Kirk, Ben, you have thoughts on rape revenge? I did that right. Drink.
I mean, it's a genre of exploitation film. And I've got no real strong opinion on it one way or the other. I suppose it depends on the film.
Case by case basis of rape revenge. Well, I think
it can be lurid and exploitative, or it could be cathartic. It could have something more complex to say. I don't know. It depends.
And still, in talking about both of these movies, there's a final. Would you agree there's a final girl in both of them?
Well, again, no, I wouldn't call it.
Because the director straight up called the woman a final girl, even though you don't find out the thing that you both referred to in chapter 4.
Technically, wouldn't you need a first girl for it to be a final girl? Or a victim? Or, if anything, he's the final guy or whatever.
I see what you mean. He's not, though.
Sure. But then that makes her less of a final girl.
The woman who shoots her in her own passenger seat is the final girl.
I was thinking that too. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think you should see Blink Twice, Nick.
I might.
The filmmaking was good.
When the narrative I can see what the director means when the narrative first presents her, like during the chase portion of the picture.
You're talking about Strange Darling. When JT,
Strange
the director,
Darling. She's kind of like filmed and presented as kind of like the last survivor of a slasher villain / serial killer, and like you assume that that's what's going on, and we're finally getting to that spoiler. It's not what's going on. Actually, she's the serial killer.
Yeah.
And he escaped her, and now she's trying to escape him because he's a cop and he has a gun.
And we don't find out he's a cop until, is it chapter 2? Like the
she finds his badge.
Chapter. Yeah, because she finds the badge. Even though I was looking at his mustache the whole time, going, "That's a cop."
Yeah.
So here's a question that was not scheduled on our outline, at least as I recall it. But
I appreciate that you all looked at it.
It came to mind to me as I was watching it, and then the review on RogerEbert.com came down rather hard for it on this. Is this kind of a misogynist film? Is this a movie that is like a reactionary response to like Me Too? Because you can't say that the movie doesn't bring it up.
How does the movie bring up Me Too? Is it because women can get killed?
It brings up she brings up in the beginning when she's talking with him in the truck about the dangers that women face when they're looking for a sexual encounter. They have to worry if they'll be okay, and men don't. And you have this thing that's presented as a rather straightforward and not uncommon, situation of like, a predator male hunting down a female, but like, oh well, you look at you making your assumptions, like assuming that a woman is the victim of sexual violence when actually it's the man who's the victim of a sexual violence. So the point being, so is it possible that this movie kind of takes an MRA stance?
What's MR? Men's rights assholes?
Sure.
Yeah.
What's the A stand for?
I think
Activism.
It crossed my mind at when all was said, when it was fully revealed, because going back to when the reveal we got in chapter 4 when she killed Ed Begley Jr., I'm like, that she's not above killing herself, but I was still on the fence of like, maybe they're both, she has secrets of her own, but Kyle Gallner is still the killer. I was still on the fence. So the full reveal for me is chapter 2, when then that he is not a killer at all.
He's the victim of sorts.
It was piecemeal, because like chapter 4, it's like, well, she could also be a killer. Even he could still be a killer, even if she is also a killer.
And of course, she must be a deviant, violent person in other ways, because she's also she's also kinky and promiscuous.
Yeah. I would like to go back to the scene you described, but I don't want to cut you off.
I got off on a tangent.
Note that I am advocating this position. I don't necessarily wholly take it seriously, but I absolutely think the movie can be read that way if you want to take it seriously, which I kind of don't.
Well, and if someone wants to read it that way, who is anyone else to tell them something else? But Nick, what were you going to say?
Well, I was saying it crossed my mind, like, you never know what the filmmaker's trying to say. All you can do is come up with your own, unless you sit down and talk to them. It crossed my mind to like, and only after, not in that moment in the trunk, when she was saying it's dangerous for a woman, because we didn't have the context yet of her. Well, we knew. I think we'd already seen chapter 4. I think at that point, right?
Yeah.
So we knew that she would kill Ed Begley Jr., but not the full context of like.
We didn't know she killed Ed Begley. Wait,
maybe not. Okay.
She kills him in
4. Yeah.
Yeah, but we know he's dead by the second chapter, which is 5, because he's dead on the floor.
Yeah. But at that point, you just thought that
someone had
Kyle Gallner had gone through and killed them.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, I was not still convinced yet that she was the serial killer. I thought like she is a serial. I thought they were playing the game where like serial killer the victim of a serial killer is also like a killer themselves. They have like there have been things that have played with that. I wouldn't even call it a trope because it hasn't been used enough. But like it's an old like the very first episode of Tales from the Crypt was the woman who murders her husband on Christmas Eve, and then the escaped mental patient dressed as Santa targets her house out in the middle of nowhere, and she can't call the cops because because she'll get caught for murdering her husband. So it's like where the victim is also a villain in their own right. That's what I thought they were doing when we learned that she killed Ed Begley Jr. I did not think
she had become monstrous to kill the monster.
Not become monstrous, is that she already, because I mean she had said don't do me a favor, no cops, right? So I just think I thought the card they were playing was that she is the victim of this serial killer, but she is a villain in her own right even prior to this.
Sure.
Did not think they were going. I was not yet sure, even though it had crossed my mind going into it, because everyone's like, well, don't spoil the twist. Don't spoil the twist. I'm thinking, what could that twist be?
Sure.
The biggest twist would be that she's the serial killer. So
this is marketing getting in your head. That
crossed my mind, but the movie itself had not sold me yet on her being the serial killer.
She's an adult. She's an adulteress because she acknowledges that he's married in that first scene. She's aware that he's committing the act of adultery, and she's fine with it. She says that. So, like, in some horrors, like making that moral judgment opens you up to retribution narratively in other movies, I would argue. I'm not arguing that's, sorry. Ben.
And I also feel like in Chapter 4, there's kind of a shift in Willa Fitzgerald's performance, where she like becomes like less stressed and afraid and more aggressive.
I would argue she oscillates, and like when you go back and watch the first scene now, she's the aggressor, so that you could catch the oscillation between victim to. Here's the thing about the scene in the car. When I was watching that, I was thinking about, oh my god, I gotta tell my daughters someday that like it's much scarier for you dating than it is for guys, because that's true. And so that was really fucking with my head. And I like that in these last two movies we've discussed, like, oh man, Romulus, that young man looks like my nephew. And then in this, I was thinking, oh man, my daughters someday have to understand that, in most circumstances, you can't overpower a guy, right? And like that's the point of what you're saying. That's why Me Too is important.
Sure, but she's more talking about the dangers of women trying to just get some, and that she plays a huge risk in doing simple things like that.
Well, yeah, because we think it's like, women should be allowed to like casual sex as much as men like casual sex, and I'm all for equality in that way. And my wife taught me about being SA. That's sexually active. She didn't teach me about being sexually active. She liked to use the term sex positive, because they have sex positive sex ed now in high school, because you don't want to teach kids that it's like a bad thing. You want to teach them that it's a beautiful and important thing, but like you want to handle it seriously because you can make a baby, all that stuff.
And there aren't any protests for that?
I'm sure there are lots of people who are from like the area I grew up in, a rural area, who think like, oh, well, you got to teach them it's gross and scary to have sex, and that's why horror movies use sex as like have sex, you used to get killed in horror.
So that they'll do it anyway, and then they'll force the 14-year-old to give birth, but not want to feed at a school lunch.
Only if it was her stepfather. Big ups to DNC again. Sorry, they brought it up. Wow. They brought it up twice. It was weird.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna. Oh, here's the thing. Okay, so Nick, part of the problem with this movie for you is that you went in with this, hey, don't spoil the twist, don't spoil the twist, and No.
The problem is not that I kind of wondered if what the twist ended up being was going to be the twist. I don't care about that. I'm just like questioning if I think it was good filmmaking paired with not great storytelling, because if you have to scramble the story up in parts to make it interesting, then then the story itself is probably not that, because the story is just the story. The story is, the experience is nonlinear, but the story any story is always linear.
Sure.
When you look, if you're going to look at the story at a high level, and that would not be a very interesting story if it told in a linear fashion.
Well, I've always I do appreciate the the niceness of being able to be surprised by a film.
Yeah.
But I've always felt that if a film is actually worse when you know more about it when you see it, then it can't be much of a movie. Like, because it basically means that it's going to be worse the second time you saw it.
There's no rewatch if it's
I feel I would enjoy rewatching this, but you guys don't feel that way. Is that what I mean?
I agree with that.
It's a thing where, like, I don't entirely believe that I'm not entirely, like, enthusiastically behind the, ethical argument I made about this movie's sexual politics.
It's an important addition. Thank you.
But it's like I think it's there, but I don't really take this movie seriously enough to get upset about it. But I will say I liked the movie more. The part of the movie before the twist I liked more when it was like a more straightforward chase movie than I did afterward.
I would argue that is because of the quality of filmmaking, which continued through the second half, but then you're aware of
great cinematography in this movie from
35 millimeter Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah.
Nick, jerk off for us.
I was reading a little bit about like how he'd just been picking up stuff from the DPs who were shooting the movies he's been working on for like 20 plus years.
And I will say the last long shot of this film, great shot.
Yeah, that was great. Watching her die on screen.
Yeah.
While they slowly desaturated.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a physical? Okay, Ellis.
No, I'm just saying. I noticed they did the same. They did the opposite in that first shot of her.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And while I don't know their post process, I imagine their post process was, unless they went super hardcore and like cut.
No, it was mostly done in camera because Kirk and I listened to some interviews where with the
saturation.
Yes, due to how they lit and film stock they used, but they did have because they had a smaller budget for post and not.
Well, but you don't need a budget to do desaturation
for color. Specifically on their post because he talked about this.
Yeah,
Kirk, do you remember this?
Yeah, but I don't remember him talking about the ending specifically that they were.
Not the ending, but the way they were able to save money in post by shooting on film because they had to be more intentional with their shooting versus digital photography. And then also, I remember him specifically saying that the saturation of the color was something they caught in camera through lighting. And that
I don't know how you do that, man.
You could add to it, right? In the colors could add to it, but how much do they add?
Like
20%, 40%?
No, you can go 100%. You can take it all out. But I'm saying, like, I don't know. I think what he probably meant by saving money in post is that if they were being more intentional by shooting film, they had less raw footage to have to scan at 2 or probably 4K digital intermediate. Oh, okay. If they proceeded with, unless they were doing Steven Spielberg, where you're still like cutting it by hand on film, and you've got pieces of film hanging from fucking hooks everywhere. Like, unless they did that, and then they do a work print that has fingerprints and marker all over it, and then when you lock the edit, we're gonna go back and like cut the negative to match the portions we use. And then you're just gonna go and process the negative from that and go in a hermetically sealed room and cut the negative and cement it together.
I didn't get that impression.
I feel like they probably did a typical DI for this after shooting on film.
I know what DI means, but for the audience,
digital intermediate.
Yeah.
So I think what he meant by it saved them money in saved them money in post production was that they didn't have
different versions and
again, this doesn't quite make sense because if you shot digital, you're not scanning, you're not scanning stuff to 2 or 4K for a digital intermediate because it's already digital. If you shot digital, I don't know. I don't know what he meant. I guess my best guess is that he or maybe they meant time like spent doing cuts. If you don't have as much raw footage, like if somebody's shooting digital and just letting the camera fucking roll willy nilly because it's fucking I got more fucking SD cards. I got more fucking CFast cards.
Our DIT is on set and we want to make them work.
Yeah, then I could see, you got to book more time in the suite or whatever.
I just want to emphasize that I feel like I listened to it just today and it was a lot of that color we caught in camera, but the other big piece of this larger conversation was that actually renting a film camera is cheaper than renting an
Alexa LF.
Exactly.
Yes,
and he even
Alexa
mentions
LF's
Alexa.
like $2,000 a day or something, $1,500 a day.
Yeah, the camera packages are because he's working with Francis Lawrence on his next. He wrote the movie that Francis Lawrence is directing next, and they're using an Alexa on that. And he was like, yeah, but that costs a lot of money to rent every day, whereas you can rent a film camera for next to nothing.
Oh yeah.
And then if we went in intentionally shooting less because then he brought up the color.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that much to pay the colorist was part of what he said. And then
I get all that. And so here's what I think he means about the color. I think he means that the color in its full form that's how it looked. Like you scanned it and you scanned it and that's how it looked. Like you didn't have to apply some crazy LUT to it. To get it to look that way, to get the colors to pop, like the red of her stolen outfit. I do not think this desaturation was part of that. I
wasn't saying that at all.
Okay, well it sounded like that.
I'm glad you clarified it for the audience.
Like, yeah, I mean, because that's a really simple thing to do. And
as like a effect
in just a grade.
Here's bringing it back to the overall point, though. This is a movie that I want to own on 4K because I want to look at the cinematography, and it would like everyone almost up to my mother I could show this to, which is kind of how I measure all these movies. Is like, no, mom, this is a thriller. You could get through this. Now, not all. This one is right on the edge where it might be a little too bloody. My pivot point is Steve Quezada, I think is. He plays Stevie in Breaking Bad, and he's also a cop in Breaking Bad. The guy at the end who says,
yeah.
You
Steven
dumb
Michael
bitch.
Quezada?
Is that his name? Quezada?
I think so.
I think it's Quezada. I
Quezada.
remember writing it down in the...
Like, what Zada?
What yes. What Zada means something.
No one knows.
It's
been 20-some years since high school Spanish.
I mean, a Z in Quezada, if it's spelled with a Z, it's still pronounced like S.
Oh, yeah,
Quezada.
Quezada.
Still Quezada.
Thank you. He's the one who says, you dumb bee. And I think he's referring to himself on some level.
No, he's
dumb bee.
referring to his partner.
Perhaps
it's got to be his partner.
Perhaps, getting back to the earlier point, perhaps it is directed diegetically at all the women like the woman cop who automatically believe a woman's story. Perhaps.
Wow,
that's a great argument.
I did not see that coming.
Because see, the movie's theme comes back because isn't
this strange, darling? You dumb bee.
Because the woman cop assumes that the obvious interpretation of what she sees is what happens, whereas I think within the film, like from the Watsonian perspective,
Watsonian.
There's the Watsonian perspective, and then there's the Doyleist perspective of how you can explain things that happen in fiction. Because the Sherlock Holmes books in the real world were written by Arthur Conan Doyle, but the fictional conceit is that they were all written by Dr. Watson.
Yes.
So if you're explaining something the way Watson would explain it, it's a Watsonian explanation. So anyway, Watsonian explanation is that the cop was a friend of the character called who is called in the credits as the demon. And was more inclined to say, well, hang on a minute, maybe something's going on here. There's protocol that has to be followed, and we need to establish a scene, and I'm sure there is protocol, and you can't necessarily assume that someone's the victim, but still, like he's kind of talking to the audience here. Is like, do you think he might be talking to the audience here? Do you think that this particular scene might be about Me Too in a way that kind of sucks?
I do see that reading of it. I'm not going to argue against it.
I do now recall him saying definitely to his partner. There's no disputing that it was to his partner. Something to the effect of, we don't know if she's a victim yet. If she's the victim yet,
correct.
Mm-hmm.
So that really does drive home Ben's point. Like if you so the other point about the thing
because the thing is, if you saw those specific things, like 1,000,000,000% of the time, it would be exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, it would. The girl is the victim, and the guy like fucking deserves it.
The scene in the truck, like, and again, it doesn't hit home until the reveal, but like, I was thinking, well, maybe it's just a screenwriting trick to be subversive. It's not trying to make a statement. It's not trying to be like, but when you combine it with the stuff in that scene, like when she's getting, when they find her, then it becomes harder to ignore. as a possible, like, well, I'm going to show them.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that the filmmaker like went, set out.
He's
to
not
make
an
a
incel
film.
trying to make us.
Yeah,
think
I don't think he
incel
set out meaning to say that.
I almost would walk away with Blink twice more thinking that than that, were it not from a woman. That's why I felt that about Blink twice, but continue, please.
Yeah, I think more than anything, the structure is kind of like a Tarantino riff. And like some of the dialogue, particularly in Chapter 1, which is Chapter 3.
Chapter 1's Chapter 1.
Like, no, Chapter 1 is... Chapter 1 is like the third one presented.
We see 3 first?
It's 3 and then 5 and then I think it was 1 and then 4 and then 2.
Oh, because 3 is her running to the old
3, 5, 1, 4, 2, 6.
I want to quickly counter the shitty take on Me Too and like being a men's rights thing. Just in the sense that, if it gets young people to think about it and talk about it, that's a way to avoid, like, it's a way to work towards enthusiastic consent. So like, hey, my teen friend that my 19-year-old, or two 19-year-olds who rented this movie because we can't drink, 5 years from now, and we're watching it, and oh man, that was really exciting, but really kind of makes you think about these things and how, like, oh, my presumption was that. So like, is there something to making a movie that deals with these issues, helps people discuss the issues, even though people don't talk about movies, and therefore it's not MRA, it's, hey, by getting people to the table and discussing these things, that's better than the alternative.
I mean, it's good for the people to discuss a movie, but I don't know if the Me Too is that apparent in the film that they would discuss it.
And Bill Clinton talked at the DNC last week. We're over Me Too.
Sure.
Ro Khanna said afterwards, like, yeah, what he did was monstrous, but he's a good orator. And
yeah, I don't think that's the big argument.
Well, I mean, the other thing would be Me Too isn't going to be going on as long. Like, people in 5 years from now might, like, it's a historic event for them.
Well, also, why? I don't want to go down a Bill Clinton rabbit hole, but why would Bill Clinton be Me? That Me Too
because
is like,
he used his power in office to get a subordinate to have sex with him.
That's don't recall the details, but I mean, he didn't like.
No,
there was.
But
when you're the president of the United States, there is absolutely an imbalance of power in that relationship.
Sure.
Me Too isn't just rape. It's also, if you're in the office and using your imbalance of power to get some sex, you're doing it wrong. You should be going for your equal and achieving enthusiastic consent.
So does anyone with power having sex mean they use their power, though?
Depends.
I'm not trying to stand up for Bill Clinton. I don't know the details. I'm just saying that means that anybody in power can't have sex anymore because that's...
Well, it's kind of like how the rich guys date like pop stars, or like a football player who's really popular could date a pop star. And I'm trying to think of another...
Yeah,
like a high-powered business person might date another high-powered business person.
Sure, but The pop star is more popular than the football player, I would say. So I mean, she has more power over him than he does over her.
What do you think? What do you think Taylor Swift does when she watches Strange Darling with Kelsey? Sorry, Ben. Just imagine Taylor Swift watching this movie with her boyfriend.
She says, "Hey, she stole my playbook."
Wow.
Okay, Swifties. He lives in the following place.
Plymouth,
Minnesota.
I just feel like Taylor Swift is probably a take charge kind of girl. That's all.
Good for her.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying.
Actually, just to go on a political thing real quick, I watched Miss Americana, and I found
What the fuck is Miss Americana?
It's the Taylor Swift documentary from 2020. You
Oh,
Well, we're
I
not
have no fucking
Swifties.
idea.
Only one of us
I
is
want to be
Swifties,
cool with the Swifties. My niece is a Swiftie, and God bless. I watched that document. I told her recently, this 10-year-old niece of mine, she's a big Swiftie. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ben, I cut you off a long time ago.
Yeah, but I'm not opposed to films in which a woman is clearly immoral and is clearly like immoral or a killer. I support both women's rights and women's wrongs. But it does limit women if you can't if you can't depict them as a character who's in the wrong. It is still like the film's kind of accidental subtext is still worth noting, though. It's like I said, it's not something that upsets me or makes me hate the film. I think it's like I think that if you're particularly if you're someone who wants to support movies that look good, which a lot of movies lately don't, then buying this in 4K might be for you. It's one of those things where this is kind of a movie that's only worth watching on the screen or in 4K. If you're watching on a plane, you might kind of see the seams of the storytelling, so to speak. But
A comparison there, I'd go to Midsommar from a different studio. Midsommar, I saw in the theater once, and then since then I've only ever watched in 4K. And it's, a woman turns out to be the winner there in a good way.
What isn't Midsommar? She's still the victim, though.
She's a victim largely and then assumes power at the end.
Sure, but in Strange Darling, she's not the victim in the story.
Sure, they're coming from... Well, I would assume something unfortunate happened to... And what's her character's name? The lady?
Yeah, just the lady. Or electric lady.
The electric lady, yeah. What is... When people hurt people, I assume she has been hurt that led her to this. And what would be really funny is to watch Blink Twice and then watch this, which someone could do, and that's a good night, good afternoon at the movies.
I kind of did. I watched Blink Twice first, and then I watched Strange Darling.
Yeah, so you came in with a completely different worldview than I did, because I watched Blink Twice after this.
The men are usually the bad guys in film movies. Yeah, these kinds of movies, sure.
Yeah. You said, Ben, that this is a Quentin Tarantino riff, so...
structurally... And to a certain extent, in terms of the dialogue, which is in terms of its willingness to be lurid and blunt and have kind of even though not everyone talks quite exactly the same, you can kind of still tell the same person wrote all of it.
I didn't have that, but Nick's agreeing with you.
I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I agree with it. I think it has something to do with the fact that and this ties into the other point about is this an anti-Me Too? The fact that they had her say dialogue specifically, almost to bait people, with it's dangerous for a woman to go and seek out casual sex. They didn't have to put that in there. It didn't this experience or whatever you want to call it didn't and the story didn't rely on that. So the fact that they're putting it there, JT Mollner, I don't know anything about the guy.
It's a thesis statement of the movie in some way.
Yeah, the fact is that's the thing. You have to. It's not just they just mentioned it. The fact that it's there has significance. So that does let you form theories about like what they're trying to say, the fact that it's there. So and when that's happening, yeah, you hear the writer's voice come through and more than the characters' voices. So yeah, I mean, like that in moments like that, you're hearing the writer talk more than you're hearing the characters talk.
Well, and where I was going with that was let's contrast that with the other 3 or 4 movies that have been like that this summer. Ben said he liked Longlegs better, but that was David Fincher doing Silence of the Lambs, and I feel like everyone in there kind of was stilted in some direction or other.
In Longlegs?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Longlegs. No one. Yeah, I don't know. Longlegs felt pretty. The dialogue anyway. Yeah, no, I can't think of like anything that's set.
I liked it better because Nicolas Cage was in it.
Hell yeah. You guys want to just fuck this podcast and watch Mandy right now?
No.
I gotta work in the morning.
I'm sorry. I love Mandy.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, someday you meet Kirk, you and me.
No.
In fact, because the other thing we talked about before this, just we have time in the future. And then like Maxine and Oddity are in this same like vein. Some have more supernatural like Oddity and Longlegs. Some are, just real world like Maxine and this. But it's weird that like all of these quote unquote horror movies, but to me they're more like crime thrillers, some with supernatural elements, but they're being classified as horror. Is like there's my favorite phrase, nuance. There's also a hand gesture. You're listening to this podcast, so.
Looks like you're fingering a ghost.
And they're all and they are all to a certain degree female led.
Yeah, and I like that.
Yeah, I think they are all female led.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oddity is female led. The girl plays her sister, the blind sister, and then Maxine is obviously what's her name from X? Maxine?
Yeah.
Is her name Maxine in X?
Yeah.
She changes it to Maxine.
No, she's Maxine, but
it's
she
Maxine.
ditches her last name.
Got it.
So I am going to raise a potential point and then immediately dismiss it.
Wait, give yourself a pause between. Let us bat at it and then take it away.
Okay, so when we consider like thinking, so I'm going to bring up the original Alien, and I say this having completely missed the one on Romulus.
We replaced you with the pan for that one.
Yes, but the original Alien, the screenwriter, is it Roy O'Bannon, is that his name?
Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett.
Yeah, but his
In Irish?
yes,
Sorry.
an Irish.
Wow, you did not like Irish.
His intention was to kind of create the fear of rape in men.
I brought that up like 80 minutes into that podcast, and everyone was like, yeah, we all know that.
And so one might argue that perhaps Strange Darling intends to, with its inversion in the middle of the film, create that fear of being possibly murdered when you're just trying to have a sexual encounter in men in the same way that Alien did. Now I'm going to leave a long pause here because I'm going to immediately dismiss this.
Wait. Let's let let's let Kirk and Nick react. Nick, you love that, don't you? You like feeling like you'd be killed during sex? That's your kink? I'm kidding.
No. I was just thinking back over my storied history. Did I ever fear for my life? No. No, that could be like, yeah, like you'd have to sit down and ask him to know for sure. But like that's a way you could look at it. It's a better way to look at it. Like I would look at the writer director more favorably if that's what he was going for, rather than just be like, oh, fucking men get killed too sometimes.
He's not a men's rights.
Let me go play Fortnite some
Why
more.
would Willa Fitzgerald have wanted to work in this movie?
That reminds me.
I think his approach was more like, what if what if it turns out that the woman's the serial killer? That'd be that they won't be expecting that. Like
he did write the script in 10 days, he said, but after months of continue.
But yeah. Anyway, my dismissive argument, unless somebody else has one.
Let Kirk react.
I mean, I can see it, but I don't think it doesn't show that much in the movies, so I can't really.
But it made you think that.
No, I never thought that. I don't think because I know women have a lot more fear than men do about
Practical considerations is what I would say.
Being murdered at any point. I mean, a woman doesn't feel safe walking down the street at all.
Yeah, but that's
a man would
but that's
feel
what makes
safe all the
movies
time.
special. They can make you like imagine if you were in this situation where you were the helpless one this time
It has to be more prominent
around.
in the movie, though. I don't think it's too. Maybe it's too subtle.
The alien should turn to the camera at the end of Aliens after James Cameron's, blow him up
No,
fast
okay,
and go,
the
this is about rape.
The difference is the alien actually has a thing that looks like a dick that goes into your mouth.
You would know.
Come on, man. I'm trying to make my point here.
I'm sorry. The alien's trying to make a point in your mouth.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Why do you make my point for me, Cal?
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know your point. I've only got my own point.
I'm saying it's not prominent enough. It's like Alien.
Subtext.
It's like, it's obviously there. The monster is much scarier, and in Strange Darling, it's not scary at all.
And generally, that is my own dismissal. Is that I was not scared of her, that's not a fault of her performance. Her performance is very good, and to the extent where I kind of wonder or I kind of think maybe that's not what he was going for, because probably would have been more jump scare shots of her jumping out behind a corner at somebody,
That's the way it would be done typically.
Yeah.
I'd like to make the Nolan brothers argument. They got in an argument once after Chris tried to explain something at the end of the movie, and that taught him to not explain things, hence Inception. Because Jonah's like, don't ever give an answer like that, where you tell the audience what they should think about it. Just let them all come to it with different perspectives, because that makes it better. It's like, if you can project onto it what you want to, and more people can project onto a piece of art, movie, as we're talking about, different experiences, but still come away with a general idea, but also also come away with different ideas. That's good.
Well, I think it depends on the movie, and I think sometimes the question is the message, and sometimes the message is, I want to leave people thinking about this, and that the fact that they're thinking about it is the message. Other times, though, if if this filmmaker was trying to say, well, fuck, men are in danger too. What if she poisons me in a motel room? If that's what they're thinking, and at a certain point, not every movie is. I think most filmmakers have something they want to say, and I think less often is when the message is the question. With Christopher Nolan, sure, it's you're not supposed to know if it's a dream or not. But most
it doesn't matter. He's with his kids.
Most people.
Every text can be analyzed in this manner, except Ghostbusters. That movie's not about shit.
All right.
It's a eulogy to John Belushi dying, because it would have been so much cooler with the other Blues Brother. He did write it first with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and then they had to bring in Billy.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
Sorry, Nick. Did we cut you off? What's Max? So if this is to Quentin Tarantino what Longlegs is to Fincher, what is Maxine to something else, or Oddity to something else?
Maxine is probably one of those trashy 80s
Rennie Harlan,
girl on the street, I don't know.
Who's making stuff in the 90s? Because the other thing is that the 90s was a reaction to the 70s, and it's weird how this summer we've gotten a bunch of 90s shit.
Yeah, true.
Making a comeback. I don't know. Maybe it's time.
Oddity is Agatha Christie doing Insidious.
Yeah, pretty much.
Barbara Hershey, baby. I want to tie up one point Nick brought up. If you played this movie linearly, it would suck. Yeah, the director knows that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that's why I said at the very beginning, it's good filmmaking paired with not remarkable storytelling. Because
I feel that's kind of an irrelevant counterfactual, because ultimately the story was not told was not told linearly. It's fiction's not gossip about imaginary people. It's like a crafted piece of like fiction to establish the like a particular illusion. The thing was that, like, again, I didn't find it nearly as compelling, like, after the twist that the structure was kind of meant to conceal, than I did before. Like, when it was, like, a more straightforward, cat and mouse chase picture, I was a lot more gripped by it, because, in part because it was, so well crafted, the cinematography was so good, and, the overall quality of filmmaking. And I do generally agree that the quality of filmmaking is a lot better here than the quality of writing.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would watch
But,
it
and
again.
I mean, you'll see, I'm saying that, like, the writing is like a low C minus, as opposed to, like, if an F is like Argyle,
Argyle has his own issues.
I've loved other things, Matthew, because that's a writer
Or like
director, so
Jurassic World. Any of the Jurassic Worlds is
writer
pretty
director
bad.
there too.
The Screams are pretty bad.
You said
The new Screams are pretty bad.
you're not going to stand for him.
Borderlands is bad, but I will say not as bad, not the worst of the year. That's still Argyle, because it's 45 fucking minutes longer than Borderlands.
I'm more mad at Argyle than I was at Borderlands, and we had 2 episodes ago, or however many, it doesn't matter. This is a linear podcast. We baited some people who liked Borderlands, and like our argument was, it was just so like mid that like mid of like low mid, where, oh man, what do we do with this? I wanted to be mad at it. Like Argyle made me mad, so it got something.
It's like you fed in like a bunch of. It's like you fed in all 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies into Chat GPT and had it write the screenplay from that.
Write a spy movie. Yeah. Nick, you have.
I was talking about. I was talking about Borderlands for that.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. You were were you talking about people who liked Argyle? Or
No, they like Borderlands, and it was just because, it was, fun ride.
Make no mistake, Borderlands was garbage, but it was 100 minutes long.
This was 96 or something like that.
And
Blink Twice is 100 minutes. Nick should watch it, especially since he's written My Friend Molly and directed it. Like, I don't know, that's kind of in the same.
I shouldn't ever mention Argyle, because I always make myself mad when I think about it.
I was next to you when you saw it with Japan. See,
yes.
Brought it back. Rank these movies: Oddity, the other 3 I said, Long Legs,
Strange.
Strange. Rank them. Just because
Strange.
I think that between the 4 of us, we'll all come up with different things. That's why I brought them up.
Well, I have not seen Maxine.
Oh, what? Okay, but you can skip. You go first.
So I'll rank the other 3. I would go Oddity, Long Legs, Strange Darling.
Damn.
And, I would not say any of them is out and out a bad movie.
No, of course not.
I'm gonna go Oddity. Yeah, it's kind of like Ben's. Oddity, Long Legs, Strange Darling, and then Maxine on the bottom.
Holy
I'm
shit.
the same.
Really? Okay. Maxine way up there for me. Strange Darling way up there for me. Oddity, Long Legs. But like, I like all of them. They're all like 8s. I would own them. I probably will own them over the next 5 to 10 years. And, just talk about,
my sister's back in town. We'll probably watch Long Legs over the next few days.
If instead of like whatever you're going to, so you're gonna have to VOD it because it's not on disc yet.
That's fine.
Yeah,
One of those ones I'd watch on my projector rather than my monitor. Get the curtains down, the lights low.
Actually, we should. We can't bonus it if Lloyd is there.
Why not?
It would be Lloyd's. Well, should we bonus it
What do you mean?
for Lloyd? Like, do a Bone Us episode of Long Legs at Ben's apartment, where possibly Prince used
Ben's
to fuck.
apartment.
Yeah,
Why?
Ben's apartment has a projector, and Prince used to fuck there. Maybe.
What?
Possibly.
So there's purple semen all over the place.
It was.
You have to turn the lights neon.
I've got a framed Prince poster because of it, but like they told me that my apartment on the top floor that Prince used to live there, and they told me they told me that after I signed the lease, so it might even be true. don't know more about that any more about that except it was like in like the Dirty Mind era, so he had a record label, but he wasn't a national household name yet. I don't know if it was his permanent residence or if he just like took girls there, but like
He made girls pancakes there.
yeah.
I bet you have a really great like stove. No, for the pancakes.
They've replaced the stove since then. How long do you think a fucking stove
Well, I don't
lasts?
know. They don't always
Gas stove, like he was lighting his joints off of,
It's an electric stove.
Oh, okay.
like the electric lady.
That's probably the era when my dad was tuning his guitars.
Your dad should come for when we do the bonus of
Why?
Long Legs. And
Why?
Yeah, how many people are you gonna invite to this long?
He's not gonna want. He's not gonna watch Long Legs.
you won't like Long Legs?
No.
I would totally show Long Legs to my family.
It was the same projector Kyle and I watched Hundreds of Beavers on.
It's a great movie. You both should see that too.
Is that the indie film?
Yeah, from the guy in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Go, man. So I'd like to hand out the award of the evening and get you guys to say nice things about this movie we're talking about.
Yeah.
I would like to hand out the Lupita Nyong'o School of Not Getting Recognized for Excellent Acting in a Genre Picture.
You can't make that call, especially
She hasn't.
when
There have been no awards for her
She's
to be
not going to get
recognized.
nominated. She was
don't
very
know.
All right,
good.
Nostradamus.
Do you really think? Okay, the actress in this movie.
Yeah,
do you
she's
not
good.
think she was like she's the best actress of the 4 movies we talked
counterpoint,
about?
Lupita probably won other awards that year
Well, yeah,
for us.
they awarded her for being a slave, and then when she was in Us, they didn't recognize her.
No,
That's
that-
bullshit.
But Oscars,
It
I don't
is.
know. People don't really care for Oscars anyway. So
Of
I don't-
course not. Yeah,
So what's your point? I mean, it doesn't matter if she got nominated once.
Well, I mean,
it
it-
just makes me mad because good acting doesn't get recognized
Yeah, but
in
she-
genre.
But she won other awards for her role in Us, I'm sure.
She probably like a
Yeah.
Saturn or something.
So yeah, I mean, I just don't get. I know it's just a joke, but I'm gonna bust your balls over it. Like, why?
Well, I think all of you should gush about how good of an actress she is, and Nick's going to say something inappropriate about when he saw her on Reacher.
No, I mean, no, she's good. Yeah, she's probably. They're both. I mean, everyone's good in it.
It's well cast. So, like, the movie's well directed, the
I think
filmmaking is
I would
great,
rate
the
her-
casting is great.
I would rate her acting-
Story is a C minus.
Well, yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, like, it's
there-
just like if you played it in sequence, it would be like.
But it
Here's-
wasn't designed that way from the inception. Sorry.
That's why I'm separating this experience of watching it from the story. The story is the story. How you rearrange the story is the experience. The story is just the story. And no, it is.
No, other people have, like, telling a story out of order is part of the writing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like the story isn't just like the incidents and facts, like it's a history of something that actually happened.
You need to know that to write a story.
Yeah, but it's a good story. Also, being able to rewatch it, being able to go back to it. Like, I mean,
Not necessarily. That's a good point.
Like the Sixth Sense, you know he's a ghost, but I would still go watch it. It's still a good movie, even though you know the twist that he's a ghost.
Yeah.
Because you pick up on more. Because him and his wife, the dinner scene,
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense. It's not like she's ignoring him. Oh, he's actually dead, and that's why he can't pick up on that. But with Strange Darling, when you know the twist, none of the scenes really stand out that much.
I feel like I feel like it's not as impactful if you like don't have the notion that that Willa Fitzgerald's character is like, oh, she's out in the woods, where the hell is she, and like who can she go to? She's running from this psycho who has a gun, as opposed to like, oh, her intended victim / mark or whatever was escaped and got a gun, and now she's trying to avoid comeuppance. And I don't know if there are any hints of that I would pick up on a second viewing that would enhance the experience.
Sure, but
the way that, for instance, knowing the twist in The Sixth Sense, and you can watch it again and see, or like when the Red Wedding happened in Game of Thrones, and people who had seen the book were like, ooh,
This goes to what people fetishize in movies. Like, I could see someone saying, I really like that performance, I want to watch that performance again. Or, I like the cinematography, I want to watch that cinematography again. It's actually the argument for why Borderlands should have come out versus being Batgirled, because there are aspects of a movie that show off different talents that are a piece of the art. They're a piece of art, but they're also an art unto themselves. Oh,
I can relate to that. Like there are scenes from movies I will get the urge to watch just because of the performance, maybe the cinematography.
Not porns.
No. But like
Also those.
But still, that I separate it though from story, and like how you present it. I consider how you present the story as part of the experience.
What is a good version of a story like this? Like, what is a better movie than this? Do you guys have counter examples?
Here's what if I wanted to tell this story linearly, and like, could you do it in a way where, like, you see her poison him, right, in chapter 2? If you're telling these chapters in a linear fashion, could you still keep up the ruse? Maybe that it was vengeance on her part. He was still the serial killer, quote unquote, and that her poisoning him was some sort of vengeance thing. You could maybe keep the ruse going farther by doing that. Something like that.
No, I don't think this movie's non-linearity is a problem in and of itself.
It's not a problem.
I just think that
You're saying it's
twist,
a gimmick.
I mean, yeah, but
I'm
I
saying
just think the
it's,
twist itself isn't that great. Like, if I were like totally blown away by it, like, whoa, like this. Whereas again, I liked it better. I liked it better before the twist. You know.
What is an example of a movie where the twist comes in because this was a midpoint twist, right?
Yeah.
Here, wait, I'm going to give this a midpoint twist. Can you think of it? Can any of you think of an example of a movie where like the twist comes and you like it better? I'll give a counter example. As I watched Blink twice today, and when I found out what it was about, I was like, holy shit, that's not what I should have expected something like this now that I think about it, but like, yeah. And it's rape, just to be clear.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I brought up Sixth Sense. I mean,
Yeah,
you know the
okay.
twist, and then, it makes...
Kirk did the homework.
Yeah.
Just kidding, there wasn't homework.
You're talking about halfway point twist?
Yeah, halfway point, or in like, kind of in this genre.
Point.
Oh, what? Sorry, what'd you say?
Exactly halfway point?
No, it doesn't,
Well,
more or less,
Psycho is like, okay, Janet Leigh's not the main character because she's dead. I don't know how many people liked that when they saw it, 60 some fucking years ago, or didn't like it. I don't know.
Sure. Because she dies 30 minutes into a 100-minute movie, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. Here's a question. Did you like this twist better than the ultimate, like the narrative twist that Trap takes, where it like moves to a different, you don't see yourself getting out of the, like, I'll try to talk around it in case someone's come to this podcast and they're going to watch Trap and they, you know what I mean? Because there's like, hey, that third act, that's not what I was expecting this movie to be about.
Counterpoint, Trap does not have a twist. There's no twist.
Well, yeah, I don't consider that a twist.
Yeah,
you talked
twist
about
in Trap.
letting the marketing go to your head earlier. That's the same thing with Trap, because you looked at the marketing and thought this whole thing is going to take place in the arena.
Sure.
So, but I don't consider that a twist. Getting that, like, having it go somewhere that, I mean, it's a bit of a twist to have a trailer that doesn't show you the whole movie, so that there's that.
Well, that's good.
But like, yeah.
Similarly, I don't consider the ending of Infinity War to be surprising as some people do, because I remembered the original announcement when they initially announced that it was going to be in 2 parts. I was like,
Part 1 and
oh well,
2.
they're definitely not going to, defeat Thanos in part 1, which means that Thanos is going to be like victorious at the end of part 1, because that's how stories of this kind work.
But you didn't know how it was going to play out, and how it plays out is very impactful. Actually, though, I heard something that the Zack Snyder version of Justice League Part 2 was going to do the 5-year jump like Endgame does, and then Endgame beat him to the punch when Justice League got sidelined because of personal tragedy in the Snyder family. His daughter committed suicide, that widely reported.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just didn't know how to pivot back into the conversation from that.
Thanks for being a good host, Kirk.
Yeah.
No one talks about how great a host. Actually, Dean was saying,
you host more than I do.
thanks.
Honestly, yeah.
I mean, we are in the man cave that my wife and I collectively own.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for letting us use this
That
space.
wasn't but thank you. The point is just that we always call it a mank cave and not a man cave, because my wife and I don't believe, like, we both own the house. It would be stupid for me to have a part that is just mine. It's just, why would you come out to this garage?
And the name came from Solar
Opposites.
Opposites,
Where
yeah.
actually that guy, Justin Roiland, he was messaging. So that's an example of Me Too. He didn't do anything illegal, but he definitely like flirted with girls when they were like 17 and then tried to bang them when they were 18. And like, don't do that, Chris D'Elia. You know, I'm still going to call it the man cave, but I just should point out like, hey, screw you, Justin Roiland. Because I thought he had just been accused of something and been found guilty. Ben, am I getting this right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I figured you've read up on that one. And do you watch Rick and Morty?
No.
Oh, I know you don't, Nick.
I haven't watched it since like the middle of season 3 when I was like
shit,
because season 3 was kind of where I kind of stopped liking it.
Sure, it got more depressing after that.
Yeah, it did that thing that a lot of comedies seem to do, which is that once it becomes like convinced of itself and like falls in love with its own characters, it decides to like abandon what made people like it and get more serious about it. And I just wasn't picking up what it was putting down at that point. And then Justin Roiland turned out to be a big giant fucking creep.
Yeah. I'm going to pivot to the Scream TV series. Nick, did you watch that?
A little bit. I watched it when it first, I watched the first few episodes.
Because Willow was in that, supposedly.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, you knew
from that. Yeah.
All right. Somebody, the reviewer, I think she was a female reviewer who called this an exploitation film for the Slash Film Daily, who also liked it in opposition to what the Roger Ebert thing said, is she brought up the Scream TV series, and I have not seen it. Should I watch it, given that I don't like... no, that was a no.
No, I mean...
By Nick's face, that's...
It was a totally separate... they came up with a new backstory and everything, and...
Oh, it's separate from the movies?
It's not in continuity of the movies?
It could be. Like,
No.
it's different enough where it could be in the same universe. They just don't mention...
Oh.
They don't mention Sydney. They don't mention... it's their own story.
Okay.
And, like, it's a big world. You could have other people who have a serial killer. What they didn't use... at the time, they didn't license the mask, so they had a shitty...
Oh,
that's
So it's kind of like what Twisters is to the original Twister.
I guess kind of, yeah. So they had a mask that's similar, but like not infringing on copyright for the first 2 seasons, and then and the voice,
whole seasons?
yeah, and then the voice was different, and then the 3rd season, which was only 6 episodes, and it was delayed by like a couple years. They licensed the mask, and they got Roger Jackson to do the voice.
Did you watch all 3 of these?
Well, I checked out a little bit of season 3, knowing that they got
okay.
and they changed the cast all up.
Every
So
season.
Will
or just in the
Fitzgerald is
3rd?
not. No.
And now Roger Jackson is going to voice Ghostface in the new Mortal Kombat game for some reason.
Sweet. Because it pays well, probably.
I'm sure it does. Yeah.
But like, why would you include that character in a Mortal Kombat game? Like,
because aren't they...
Like, Ghostface is like, sure, I mean, the Scream movies are violent, but like, Ghostface is not like known for being an extreme badass.
He's
like,
also not the same person every
yeah,
time.
like,
clumsy
he's
as
not
fuck.
the same
Yeah.
person every time. He was like, it's like, he was fucking Shaggy once,
Yeah.
Once, on that note, Kyle Gallner, I'd like to fangirl about him. He was in a Scream 5.
Scream 5, yeah.
And he's like, his bona fides are well established.
Haunting in Connecticut,
Smile, which Nick hasn't seen all
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
No, I saw some of Smile, and then I tuned
With
out
me.
'cause I'm like, oh, cool, you did the camera upside down.
And he has a mustache.
And he did have a mustache in this. Who saw Red State?
I did not.
I've seen the ending with John Goodman.
I paid $90 to go see it in a movie theater.
Oh my God.
90 where?
The
LA?
State Theater.
Kevin
in
Smith better giving you a
Minneapolis.
great blowjob for
I
that.
hugged Kevin Smith. I said, "Can I touch you too?" Because someone else had gone up on stage and hugged him. I don't remember if I lived with Ben at this time. And he said, "Did you say, can I touch your tube?" And I was like, "That's something you guys in Minnesota say is like, touch your tube for dick?" I was like, "No, can I give you a hug as well?" "Oh yeah." And then he was shocked that I could jump that high because he's very short. To get on stage at the State Theater to hug him after watching
Oh,
Red
so
State.
white man can jump. Nice.
That's racist, Kirk.
Quick jump back. No, none of you saw The Fall of the House of Usher for Willa Fitzgerald. I can't remember who she
She was in that?
She is.
I watched because I watched some of that.
You didn't watch all of that? I would say knowing the ending doesn't spoil it to me. Don't spoil it if you know the ending.
I mean, I've read the story. Does that have anything to do with it?
It factors in, yes. Don't say it, but wait, Kirk, do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay, so don't say it because Kirk, if you haven't seen Fall of House of Usher, we're getting to spooky season. Go watch it.
Which streaming service is that? Is it Netflix?
Yeah, because it's Mike
Flanagan.
Netflix. I don't have. I have Hulu and I have Amazon Prime.
Man, we'll have to.
It's a better choice overall. You're not missing a whole lot.
You're
missing a lot of Korean soap operas
on Netflix?
I know that when I still had Netflix, they had a lot of old Shaw Brothers movies.
No. Well, they're not Korean, are they?
No, the Shaw Brothers. Those are like
Shaw is a classic.
The Shaw Brothers are the.
I don't know who the Shaw Brothers
are the kind of the quintessential kung fu movies.
Yeah, so that would be
post 36th Chamber of Shaolin. Chinese Super Ninjas.
Yeah.
5 Deadly Venoms.
I was just trying to go. Strong. Why did the Shaw Brothers get brought up after Korean soap operas? Because we're in that part of East Asia.
Well, because Netflix had a lot of them when I still had Netflix. And
we're just coming at different, and Netflix having a lot of the same shit from different angles. I see all the Korean soap operas. I'm like, why? And Ben sees the Shaw, and it's like, why?
I know. I saw a bunch of these kung fu movies, and I decided to watch a whole bunch of them.
Are you guys fans of Kyle Gallner? Is all I needed to know, though.
I think he's pretty good. I think he's always good in everything I've seen. Jennifer's Body.
Oh yeah,
he's got a good
He's a fine actor. I can't say I think of him often, but he is a fine actor.
I think of him often. I'll be honest, because he was in Veronica Mars.
Well,
first season.
What are you doing when you're thinking about it?
I'm not jerking off to Kyle Gallner, but it's more of like namesake Gallner. Kevin Smith.
Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
Same name as you.
Kevin Smith said that when he was acting on Red State, which also had Nicholas Braun from Succession. I know none of you.
He was in Red State?
Nicholas Braun and Kyle Gallner and a third person.
Oh.
I can't
The first thing I ever saw Nicholas Braun in was the 2015 Poltergeist.
No, yeah. He if you can find Red State, it's hard to find. He's in it, and so I'm kicking myself for not having bought it for like $15 on Blu-ray. Last time I saw it.
Well, did the Weinsteins own that one like they own Dogma, and you can't get Dogma?
It's the Dogma situation where you can't buy the disc.
Okay.
Yeah, but Kevin Smith.
So we're in the tangent portion.
Well, no, I was going to bring it back to Kyle Gallner. Is that Kevin Smith said that while Nicholas Braun was like big actor and he's really tall and like he's cousin Greg on Succession. I'm sorry. Kyle Gallner struck him as like a different kind of cat to the other ones because when he wanted to go like scary and big, he would go much smaller and more intense and quieter instead of getting louder and louder, like a Nicholas Braun style acting. No offense to it. Obviously very successful on Succession. Kyle Gallner would go very like quieter and like get you. He'd be more intense that way. That's why I've thought of Kyle Gallner when I see him in every horror movie because I'm like, he probably was so intense about this, but in like a quiet,
Yeah, but I think that mustache probably gave it away.
There's a cop?
Yeah, because more thinking about it, he wasn't that intimidating. He wasn't intimidating in the movie.
Looks like my friend from the gym who I've made fun of for having a mustache several times. I almost told him today. Like
the mustache kind of was a shorthand for like, oh, hey, maybe this guy's a creep,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the right cut. It's too clean of a mustache to be creepy.
He's married. His wife makes him keep it. Like, my hair has to be at a certain place in my face.
Then I think they should have went with a little bit more creepy mustache instead of this clean cut mustache.
I thought the mustache, at least initially, was like plenty plausibly creepy. Like I got no complaints with Nicolas Cage's performance, but like, and they do kind of acknowledge it in Longlegs, but like it's one of those things where you would obviously notice that there was something off about him. And in that movie, people do, but still, it's like, oh yeah, I could see this guy being a serial killer who blends in, but still gives off the vibe. But of course, that's not the case.
Michael Jackson won't look like that for at least 10 years.
Well, he never will. But
No, not anymore. But Longlegs takes place in the early 90s.
I mean, he might look. Did they cremate him? Otherwise, he might look like that.
Well, the fentanyl might have,
Who knows what that
preserved his.
God, yeah, they might. The worms might be trying to eat that, and they just can't. And he's still totally fucking intact.
Wait, does anyone else want to do a yee-hee?
No, I'm good.
I'm not capable.
Ben, what was your tangent you wanted to go on before we start talking about Barbara Hershey?
No, I was not wanting to go on a tangent. I was just pointing out that we were going off on tangents.
Yeah.
See, Ben,
But
no
if
one
you want
talks
me
about how
to, if
good
you
of a
want me to
host
go
you
off
are.
on another tangent about Charlemagne, I can. But I feel like that wouldn't really be much of a contribution.
No, let's all gush over Barbara Hershey. Honestly, I don't really remember her in Insidious 1 and 2 because I haven't watched them in a
She's
while.
Patrick
Who was
Wilson's
she
mom.
in
Yeah.
Strange Darling, who was she?
She was the older, the
She was
the-
Mississippi.
yeah, the one who escaped for a while.
I thought they were going to be creepy. I'm so glad they weren't creepy in the end.
Well,
were
they
just
thought
dumb.
Sasquatch was a real thing, but like,
when she first approaches the cabin and they're playing over the loudspeakers, they're playing the kind of crank coast to coast AM type radio.
About Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, about Bigfoot. I thought like the twist was going to be, oh no, she can't call the police because like they're off the grid, and but they went in a different direction from that.
Yeah, they were just victims in the end.
Yeah.
And what the fuck was up with what they ate? That looked delicious, and I'm gonna melt a full thing of butter now.
well, yeah, sausage and like pancakes and
Yeah,
whipped
blueberry.
cream and fucking.
Well, yeah, because they had the sausages. Then they on the side on the other pan they were putting in eggs and
Yeah.
what do you call it, the butter, and then they in the grease.
God damn
they
it! I'm gonna have
cooked
to go
pancakes.
to
And
find
then
a Denny's on the way home now.
When they set the two plates down, they look at each other in a way that lets you know that they still fuck.
Oh, they definitely
they absolutely
fucked.
fucked. They fucked before and after the first time we saw them. They fucked in between, like
That
letting
little ponytail?
Willa Fitzgerald into the house and dying. They fucked in somewhere in between.
In that house, because like
The
they
way
had
they're
those
laughing
pictures.
at each other with the coffee, like.
There was so much production design there for
Yeah.
them, and it's like I don't have a problem with it. I'm glad for it, and I'm wondering what was cut out. Like I'm sure there's more of them in the.
I would watch that. I would see more of them. Yeah, like
They were great characters. I liked them.
they're good. Yeah,
Ed
yeah.
Begley Jr. did a week on this. I heard from the interview with one of the interviews I listened to with the director.
Sure.
Yeah, because one day he's lying on the floor, one
Yeah.
day is cooking, and then the other 2 days are with
Doing a Scott Baio puzzle.
We don't like Scott. Oh yeah, because this is taking place after 2016, so Scott Baio has spoken at the RNC at this point.
Yeah, isn't it 2019, 2020 or something?
Yeah, it's 2020.
Yeah,
What?
much
I'm-
closer.
it's true.
You're
It's a
paying-
good observation. You're all looking at me like I'm a dick.
What?
And
That the movie takes place?
The fact
Yeah.
that and brings up another thing the fact that it's framed in it has this like true crime type framing with Jason Patrick at the beginning, and or the voice of Jason Patrick.
Is that who it was?
Yeah.
Oh.
Jason Patrick, the 90s actor.
Yeah.
Lost Boys.
Yeah.
I think that's what I read. Who?
The last
Wow.
thing I saw him in was Entourage, and I'm sorry I watched Entourage.
Huh.
But
I would again.
The true crime framing, like perhaps that's another clue that this is directed at like the way women think about violent crime.
Well, women are
The primary audience for
true crime
true
podcasts.
crime podcasts and true crime shows. My mom watches a shitload of true crime shows.
Our mom. We're brothers, remember?
Yes. Our mom, the one who lives in the house that I grew up in.
That was a Fargo reference to me. Like, as soon as I saw that, I knew they're fucking with us because that's not real.
It was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh,
the
okay.
the font of the scroll was even the same.
I see. So
And
that's
the
where
voice was
reference
very
comes from,
similar to the John Larroquette voiceover of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
which isn't from the 70s.
Yeah, John
Fargo's from
Larroquette
the
did
90s?
it for a joint. Like he got paid a joint.
Good for
Dude.
him.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying like
I
that's.
hope it was a fat joint.
I don't know
Like
if it
Vice
was, and he probably doesn't remember. 50 years later, or even probably 15 minutes later.
I watched John Larroquette on not Night Court, but Boston Legal. He shows up in like season 3 or 4.
Does he play the same character as Night Court?
No, but he's like kind of just a jackass who flirts with Candice Bergen and fucks with James Spader and Bill Shatner.
All right.
Should we end it on Bill Shatner?
Maybe we should end it on 30 Rock, which brought back Night Court for one episode.
It did, and then NBC brought back Night Court for real. I think it's still going.
Yeah, it's done its second season.
Just like Frasier. Ugh. I'm not saying Frasier's bad.
It's exactly what everyone wants. A reunion of Friends from Night Court.
Yeah, I can't do a reunion of Friends now. Matthew Perry died last year. I found out while I was in a hot tub. It's weird.
Could that be any more inconvenient?
Well, didn't he have too much ketamine like Kyle Gallner in this movie? That was the cause of death at this point. That has been released.
I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure it's been
I'm just saying I didn't follow.
They arrested people for dealing him the ketamine. This came out. Honestly, my wife told me a couple weeks ago because I hadn't caught it. So ketamine, watch out. I've never tried it, but don't do ketamine, kids. Ended on that, Kirk.
Yeah, don't do ketamine and listen to our next debate next week.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wait. What are we debating next week? Did you already cut it?
No, I didn't cut it. But
Are we all watching Beetlejuice next week?
Well, I can't guarantee I can do the Wednesday thing, but I want to see it. But on the other hand, I've been waiting literally 36. I mean, I remember.
What is one more day?
I remember exactly. I remember seeing the first one in the theater when I was 4. Like I still remember that night. So I've literally been waiting.
We can
36
save that
years.
for the episode.
Well, yeah,
so what's one more day? What's a few more days?
Well, because we'd record the episode right after seeing it, and we'll debate how the script for the first one is bad.
But why does it have to be the minute after
night,
Beetlejuice 2 comes out?
Well,
Again, we can save that for the episode where it happens.
Yeah, but aren't you trying to get another guest on?
that's the episode after this one. It's a linear podcast. Thank you for listening this long.
All right, we'll discuss how the sausage is made offline. All right.
Don't do ketamine.
Bye bye.